What if I told you that your biggest threat right now isn't your job? It's not the economy. It's not even your past mistakes. It's the people around you. And no, I'm not talking about loud, obvious enemies. I'm talking about the ones who drain you gently, the ones who smile while they slowly dismantle your peace, the ones who say they love you but leave you second-guessing your worth. Here's a question worth asking yourself today. Who's sitting at the table of your mind? Who has access to your thoughts, your focus, your energy, your soul? Because emotional access is power, and most of us are giving it away without realizing the cost. We guard our homes with locks. We guard our phones with passwords. But when it comes to our mental and emotional space, we let anyone walk in, especially if they've been there a long time. That's the real danger. Because not everyone in your circle is in your corner. Some people are in your life for one reason only: to keep you small enough that they still feel comfortable. And they don't always attack you with cruelty. Sometimes they sabotage you with charm. They show up as the advice giver, the good time friend, the realist, who's always just looking out for you. But underneath all that kindness is a quiet erosion of who you could be. Here's the hard truth. You don't need a traumatic event to lose yourself. All it takes is years of tolerating people who shrink you slowly until one day you wake up exhausted, uninspired, and wondering how you got so far off track. Epictetus once said, "Associate with those who help you become your best self." That's not just ancient wisdom, that's survival advice. Because your environment is more than the air you breathe. It's the conversations you allow, the energy you absorb, the emotional climates you stay in far too long. So let me ask you again, who are you letting into your mind each day? Who are you letting influence your self-worth, your standards, your sense of what's possible? If your answer isn't intentional, it's already dangerous. This video is going to expose 13 types of people who quietly destroy your inner peace, hijack your emotional clarity, and convince you to lower your standards just so they feel less insecure. But more importantly, we're not just here to identify them. We're here to learn how to deal with them the Stoic way. With emotional intelligence, with unshakable self-discipline, and with boundaries that are strong, silent, and non-negotiable. Because here's the Stoic truth that doesn't get said enough. You don't have to argue. You don't have to explain. You don't have to beg someone to respect your peace. You simply have to stop giving energy to what weakens you. And let's be clear, this isn't about becoming bitter. It's about becoming bulletproof. It's not about cutting people off in anger. It's about protecting the limited, sacred fuel that is your attention, your focus, your clarity. Because the more energy you spend managing someone else's dysfunction, the less you have to build your own greatness. So if you've ever felt like your mind is constantly cluttered, your emotions are easily hijacked, and your peace is harder to access than ever, don't assume something is wrong with you. Maybe what's wrong is who you've been entertaining. Maybe what's off is not your ambition, but the company you keep around it. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your evolution. Not everyone can handle your growth, and that's okay. But what's not okay is sacrificing your peace just to make others feel comfortable in your silence. In the next few minutes, we're going to walk through 13 emotional patterns you need to recognize, and in some cases, walk away from entirely. Because, as Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let's use that power wisely. Let's get into the people who don't belong at your table anymore. And as you listen, keep this one question close. Is this person helping me rise or helping me rot quietly? Let's begin. Let's start with the first type of person who quietly wrecks your peace without even raising their voice. The chronic complainer. You know exactly who I'm talking about. They don't yell, they don't attack. But every time you talk to them, it feels like someone is slowly dripping acid into your mind. They complain about their job, their relationship, the government, the weather, their neighbors. And somehow you end up feeling worse than they do. And here's the kicker, they never actually do anything to change it. Now don't get me wrong, venting is normal. We all need to unload from time to time. But this goes way beyond that. This isn't about seeking solutions. This is about building an identity around bitterness. And if you're not careful, their worldview becomes yours. You start seeing your own life through their lens. Your job starts to feel inadequate. Your relationship starts to feel frustrating. Even your peace, which felt solid yesterday, starts to crack today. This is emotional contamination. And the Stoics knew this thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius warned, "When you wake up each morning, remind yourself, today I will encounter the ungrateful, the arrogant, the deceitful." Not to be cynical, but to be prepared. Because Stoicism doesn't expect perfect people, but it absolutely refuses to be corrupted by their imperfections. See, chronic complainers are in direct violation of Stoic values. They refuse personal responsibility. They reject emotional discipline. They nurture resentment like it's a personality trait. And the more time you give them, the more they rewrite the software of your mind. Because make no mistake, negativity spreads. It creeps in slowly. It rewires your expectations. It drains your emotional stamina. And here's what's wild. They're not trying to hurt you. They don't even know they're doing it. But they'll make you feel guilty for having peace when they don't. That's how emotional infection works. So, what do? Do we fight them? Argue with them? Try to fix them? No, that's not the Stoic way. Here's how you handle chronic complainers with clarity and self-respect. Step 1. Set boundaries through strategic silence. You don't owe a response to every complaint. You don't have to match their energy. You can simply stop feeding the fire. Next time someone goes on their third rant about the same thing, ask, "That sounds frustrating. What are you planning to do about it?" And watch what happens. If they stumble, if they change the subject, you've just uncovered the truth. They're not looking for answers. They're looking for sympathy. Step 2. Remind yourself your energy is sacred. Just because someone is venting doesn't mean you owe them your full attention. Your peace is a form of wealth, and you have the right note, the duty to protect it. Let me say it straight. You're not a therapist, and you're definitely not a dumpster for emotional waste. Step 3. Create emotional distance. If you can't cut them off, cut the depth. Be kind, be calm, but be unavailable for chaos. Don't let their drama become your dialogue. Because if you're constantly carrying someone else's emotional baggage, don't be surprised when your back starts to hurt. A few reflection questions for you. Who in your life leaves you emotionally drained after every conversation? Are you holding space for someone who has no intention of growing? When was the last time your mood shifted not because of your problems, but because of theirs? Look, emotional intelligence isn't just about being kind and understanding. It's also about knowing when to listen and when to leave the room. Because here's what they won't tell you. The chronic complainer doesn't want to change. They want attention. And if you're not careful, you'll become their next thing to complain about. But Stoicism reminds us, your peace is your power. Protect it relentlessly. So the next time someone tries to pull you into their endless loop of complaints, remember this: silence isn't indifference, it's wisdom in motion. And walking away doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. Let's talk about the second kind of person who quietly chips away at your potential: the excuse maker. Now, let's be honest, everyone has made excuses at some point. I'm just not ready yet. I don't have enough time. Maybe when things calm down? Sound familiar? But here's the thing. Occasional hesitation is human. Living in it? That's something else entirely. The excuse maker doesn't just struggle with action, they've built a lifestyle around avoiding it. They have a reason for everything except results. You'll often hear things like, "I would have started that business, but the economy's just too unstable. I could have pursued that dream, but timing was never right. Some people are just lucky. I guess I'm not one of them." On the surface, it sounds rational, but underneath, it's fear wearing a very convincing mask. And here's what's dangerous. They don't just limit themselves, they limit you. Because when you spend too much time around excuse makers, their mindset becomes contagious. They don't challenge you to rise, they convince you to settle. You start asking, am I pushing myself too hard? Maybe discipline is a bit extreme. Maybe I should just slow down and be realistic. Before you know it, your dreams shrink to fit their comfort zone. That's not wisdom, that's slow self-abandonment. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, said it best. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Excuses feel safe, but in reality, they cost us the very things that matter most: growth, fulfillment, and progress. And here's what Stoicism teaches us. You are only as powerful as the things you take ownership of. Your thoughts, your effort, your choices, your discipline. But the excuse maker? They hand all of that over to circumstance. They don't say, I failed. They say, life got in the way. They don't say, I gave up. They say, it just wasn't meant to be. And if you're not careful, you'll start adopting that same narrative. So how do we deal with excuse energy without becoming condescending or cold? Here's the Stoic strategy. Step 1. Lead by example, not argument. The Stoic doesn't waste energy trying to prove others wrong. They simply live their truth so clearly that it becomes undeniable. Your consistency becomes the confrontation. Let your habits speak for you. Step 2. Audit your language. Excuses often slip into our lives through the way we talk. Start noticing how often you say things like, I'll try, we'll see. If everything lines up, replace them with, I will. This matters. I'm making it happen. That simple shift in language rewires your identity from passive to powerful. Step 3. Protect your momentum. You don't need to cut everyone off, but you do need to protect your space. If someone constantly justifies why they're stuck, and it starts bleeding into your focus, pull back. Because proximity shapes perception. If you surround yourself with people who glorify stagnation, you'll start confusing effort with extremism. But if you surround yourself with people who strive for excellence, you'll remember what you're capable of. A few reflection questions to sharpen your clarity. Who in your life always has a reason not to act? Have their words ever made you second-guess your own ambition? Are your decisions rooted in values soar in someone else's fears? The excuse maker isn't evil, but they are dangerous to your growth, because they won't just question your timing. They'll teach you to make peace with mediocrity. They'll tell you that average is good enough. That consistency is too much. That big dreams are unrealistic. But you weren't built for average. And you don't need perfect timing. You need commitment, clarity, and the courage to keep showing up. The Stoics understood this. They didn't wait for the world to change. They focused on what they could control and took action anyway. So if you must walk alone to stay in integrity with your mission, walk with pride. Because the longer you wait for permission, the longer you'll delay the life you were meant to live. Let the excuse makers talk. You've got work to do. Yope, YouTube script, segment the gossiper. Let's talk about a different kind of emotional drain. Not the loud one, not the aggressive one, but the one that wears a smile and knows everybody's business. The gossiper. At first glance, they're harmless. They're entertaining. They always have the tea, as people say. But here's what no one tells you. Gossip isn't just noise, it's contagious. And if you're around it long enough, it becomes your language. You stop focusing on your own life and start narrating everyone else's. Let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself repeating a rumor and then felt uneasy afterward? Not because it was scandalous, but because deep down, it wasn't you? That's what gossip does. It disconnects you from your values and replaces curiosity with judgment. The gossiper bonds with you by tearing someone else down. And the scary part? They're not trying to hurt you. They're just stuck in a habitat and they're inviting you in. But the moment you participate, even silently, you're reinforcing a mindset that keeps everyone small. Socrates once said, "Strong minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Weak minds discuss people." It sounds harsh, but it's true. And here's why. Gossip keeps you in observation mode, never action mode. It's easier to talk about someone's mistakes than to face your own. It's more comfortable to dissect someone else's decisions than to evaluate your own direction. But that comfort comes at a cost to your clarity. See, Stoicism teaches us one simple principle. Focus only on what is within your control. And guess what? You cannot control who's dating who failed, who messed up last weekend. You can only control your own thoughts, effort, and character. So when you gossip even passively, you're training your mind to focus on the wrong battlefield. And if you surround yourself with people who thrive on drama, don't be surprised when peace feels like a foreign language. Here's how to handle gossipers the Stoic way. Step 1, don't engage. Withdraw with elegance. You don't need to scold them. You don't need to lecture. You simply need to remove your participation. If someone starts gossiping, say something like, "I don't really know them well enough to comment." Or better, "Let's talk about something that actually helps us grow." That one sentence can shift the entire energy of the conversation. Step 2, recenter on what you can control. You can't stop people from talking, but you can stop your mind from absorbing their noise. Every moment spent on someone else's drama is a moment stolen from your development. And if you want to master yourself, distraction is a luxury you can't afford. Step 3, audit your environment. Look around your circle. Who constantly talks about people, but rarely about ideas, goals, or growth? If your conversations are full of stories but empty of insight, if you leave interactions feeling drained instead of driven, it might be time to reevaluate who's in your front row. Because you're not obligated to entertain weakness, no matter how charming it looks. Here are a few reflection questions to think about. Have you ever felt guilt or regret after repeating gossip? Are your conversations building your future or just circling other people's past? Do you respect yourself enough to walk away from empty dialogue? Here's what most people don't realize. The people who gossip to you will eventually gossip about you. It's only a matter of time. Gossip doesn't create connection, it creates false intimacy. And you deserve more than that. You deserve conversations that elevate you, ideas that sharpen you, voices that call you into your higher self, not back into petty distractions. So, if someone keeps dragging your focus into other people's lives, don't get mad, don't get loud. Just get quiet and walk away. Because silence isn't weakness. It's wisdom in motion. And in a world addicted to noise, that kind of stillness, that's power. Let's talk about a silent threat most people overlook. Not because it's hard to spot, but because we don't want to see it. The envious. They're not the loud critics. They don't boo when you win. They just go quiet. You share good news, they don't reply. You hit a milestone, they change the subject. You post something positive, they scroll past it with a blank stare. No insults. No arguments. Just subtle energy that says, "Your growth makes me uncomfortable." Let me ask you, have you ever hesitated to share something good because you knew certain people wouldn't celebrate with you? You held back your light not because you were unsure of it, but because you knew it would make someone else squint. That's not humility. That's emotional shrinkage. And it's one of the most toxic ways we betray our selvesto, protect someone else's insecurity. Here's what makes envy dangerous. It doesn't attack your weaknesses. It targets your strengths. It shows up when you're rising, when you're glowing, when you're finally stepping into your power. And instead of meeting you with support, the envious meet you with subtle sabotage, backhanded compliments, sudden distance. Questions like, "Don't you think you're doing too much? Are you sure that's realistic?" It all sounds polite, but it's laced with discomfort. because your progress reminds them of everything they've avoided in themselves. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, don't look to others for validation. Real growth is often misunderstood by people who haven't chosen it. And the envious? They haven't chosen it. Instead of rising with you, they try to bring you down quietly. Not out of hatred, but out of self-abandonment. Because your courage is a mirror to their complacency. Your ambition, a reminder of what they're not doing. And your confidence, a spotlight on their doubt. So how do we deal with the envious the Stoic way? Step 1. Detach emotionally. Their discomfort is not your responsibility. You can be kind, you can be graceful, but you are not here to manage someone else's self-worth. If they resent your growth, that's their wound to heal, not yours to fix. Step 2. Protect your wins. Not everyone deserves front row seats to your transformation. It's okay to grow in silence. It's okay to keep some things sacred. And it's okay to wait for the kind of circle that claps, not competes. Step 3. Replace comparison with admiration. In yourself and in others, when you see someone succeed, train your instinct to ask, what can I learn from their journey? Not, why not me? And when you succeed, celebrate it. Don't dilute your joy to keep someone else comfortable. Because your light is not a burden. It's a signal. It's proof that rising is possible even when others choose to stay stuck. Here are a few reflection questions to sharpen your awareness. Who goes quiet when you share your wins? Have you ever hidden your success to avoid triggering someone else's discomfort? Are you surrounding yourself with people who cheer for you or compete in silence? Here's the hard truth. Your success will test more relationships than your failures ever will, because it reveals what people really feel when you no longer need rescuing. When you step into your power, the insecure don't see inspiration, they see threat. But Stoicism teaches us this. You don't shrink to preserve peace. You rise with clarity, with virtue, and with an iron mind. You don't owe anyone an apology for evolving. And you definitely don't owe anyone your silence. So the next time someone can't clap for you, don't argue. Don't explain. Don't look back. Just walk forward. Because real friends don't fear your light. They rise with it. There's a kind of person who walks into a room and changes the energy instantly. Not with charisma. Not with presence. But with tension. You can feel it. Like you're holding your breath before they speak. You're walking on eggshells around their moods, carefully calculating your words because anything might set them off. This is the hot-tempered. They confuse anger with power. They mistake outbursts for strength. And they think loud equals control. But let's be clear, anger isn't power. It's possession. And if you spend too much time around someone ruled by their temper, their chaos starts to feel normal, even justified. You find yourself saying things like, "That's just how they are." They don't mean it. They had a rough day. But while you're rationalizing their rage, your nervous system is taking the hit. Your body stays in defense mode. Your emotions stay on high alert. And eventually, you start reacting the same way they do: sharp, defensive, unstable. You become what you tolerate. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, didn't sugarcoat it. He said, "Anger is a brief madness. Control it, or it will control you." And that's exactly what happens with the hot-tempered. They don't lead their emotions. Their emotions lead them into broken relationships, shattered trust, and a trail of emotional debris. But here's the part most people miss. They're not just harming themselves. They're training you to believe that losing control is a form of strength. They dominate conversations. They hijack peaceful moments. They make you believe silence is weakness, when in truth, it's the highest form of discipline. So, how do we deal with the hot-tempered the Stoic way? Step 1, master yourself before trying to manage them. The Stoic doesn't fight fire with fire. They disarm rage with composure. When someone explodes, don't mirror their chaos. Observe it, breathe through it, detach from it. Your calm is not passive, it's tactical. You don't win by proving them wrong. You win by refusing to be pulled into their storm. Step 2. Withdraw emotional availability. Hot-tempered people feed off reaction. They provoke you to validate their anger. So take away the fuel. Respond with clarity or not at all. Let their fire burn out on its own. As Marcus Aurelius said, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Step 3. Choose peace over proximity. If someone's anger is a regular guest in your life, and it constantly invades your peace, walk away. Not out of spite, out of self-respect. You are not responsible for fixing someone who refuses to evolve. Boundaries aren't rejection, they're protection. And when dealing with someone emotionally volatile, protection is non-negotiable. Here are a few questions worth asking yourself. Who in your life cannot go a single day without losing control? Have you started reacting more harshly simply because it's become the norm? Do you confuse loudness with leadership or silence with weakness? Let's make one thing clear. The calmest person in the room is usually the strongest. Not because they're soft, but because they don't waste energy proving anything. The person who can hold their ground without yelling, without snapping, without threatening, that's the one in control. And if someone in your circle is constantly exploding, constantly pushing, constantly draining, you have a choice. You don't have to fix them. You don't even have to explain yourself. You just have to protect your peace. Because at some point, the cost of tolerating emotional outbursts becomes too high. You lose time, you lose energy, you lose parts of yourself. And Stoicism doesn't teach us to survive emotionally dangerous people. It teaches us to rise above them. So if someone's anger has become the climate of your environment, change the climate or change the room. Because you weren't made to live in war. You were made to master yourself. You know this person. Everything is urgent. Everything is personal. Everything is a crisis. They show up with tears, chaos, and accusations. And somehow, you're always expected to fix it. Not once, not twice, but constantly. They are the drama magnet. And here's the truth. You're not in a friendship with them. You're stuck in a storm that never ends, and worse. It's not even your storm. These people don't just feel deeply, they manufacture chaos to feel significant. They take small moments and inflate them into emotional disasters. They pull in as many people as they can, shift roles from victim to hero to villain, sometimes all in one day. Why? Because drama feeds them. It gives them attention. It makes them feel alive. And it gives them a false sense of purpose. But for you, it slowly destroys your emotional clarity. You start overthinking simple conversations. You feel guilty for needing space. You second-guess your own peace, as if calm is something to apologize for. This is what Stoicism warns us about. Reacting to everything means surrendering control. And if you keep trying to rescue people who live in emotional chaos, you'll drown in a storm that was never yours to begin with. Let me ask you something. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling exhausted, even though nothing actually got resolved? Have you ever avoided setting a boundary because you knew it would create more drama than the problem itself? That's not peacekeeping. That's emotional self-sacrifice. And the longer you play that role, the more you lose touch with who you are because you're too busy managing who they pretend to be. So how do we handle drama magnets the Stoic way? Step 1. Stop trying to fix them. You are not their therapist. You are not their savior. And more importantly, they don't want solutions. They don't want resolution. They want attention. They want a stage hand. They've cast you in the supporting role without your consent. Don't play the part. Step 2. Practice the art of detached silence. When they spiral, you remain still. When they rage, you stay centered. You don't defend, you don't explain, you don't absorb. As the Stoics say, silence is the element in which great things fashion themselves. And in this case, silence is how you reclaim your power. Step 3. Set psychological boundaries and live by them. It's not enough to say, I need space. You have to mean it, reinforce it, protect it. Cut the cord between their chaos and your identity. You can care about someone without carrying everything for them. Your peace is not cold. It's sacred. Let's reflect for a moment. Who in your life turns every situation into an emotional spotlight on themselves? Do you feel drained or guilty after engaging with them? Have you confused emotional intensity with genuine connection? Drama magnets don't want peace. They want attention. And if you don't protect your mind, they'll confuse you into thinking exhaustion is love. But Stoicism teaches us that clarity is not found by avoiding conflict, it's found by refusing to enter battles that don't belong to us. You don't need to get loud. You don't need to fight. You just need to step out of the storm and stand in your own stillness. Because you are not their crisis manager. You are not their emotional sponge. You are not the lightning rod for their chaos. You are the calm. You are the anchor. You are the one who no longer gets pulled in by noise that was never your responsibility. And the next time someone tries to drag you into a whirlwind of drama, just remember, the strongest move isn't always confrontation. Sometimes it's simply not showing up. Let's talk about a type of person who can derail your dreams without ever raising their voice, without ever criticizing you directly, and often without even realizing they're doing it. The naysayer, but not the obvious kind. Not the one who yells, "That'll never work," from the sidelines. No, this one is trickier because they sound reasonable. They say things like, "Are you sure that's realistic? Don't get your hopes up. I just don't want to see you get hurt." It's not cruel, it's cautious. But under the surface, it's fear, dressed up as wisdom. Here's the danger. These people don't just question your ideas. They make you question yourself. You walk away from the conversation not feeling inspired, but smaller. Not because they shouted you down, but because their concern whispered doubts you didn't know were there. And if you hear those doubts often enough, you start shrinking. You adjust your dreams to fit their limits. You replace bold action with quiet hesitation. And before you know it, you're living a life that feels safe, but not satisfying. Epictetus warned us, it's not things that disturb us, but our interpretation of them. And the naysayer, they are masters at distorting that interpretation. They don't highlight possibility, they spotlight risk. They confuse pessimism with pragmatism, and if you're not careful, so will you. So how do we deal with naysayers the Stoic way? Step 1, separate intent from impact. Not all naysayers are malicious. Some genuinely care. They think they're protecting you, but protection rooted in fear still leads to paralysis. So even if their heart is in the right place, if their words make you stall, shrink, or self-sabotage, they're not helping. Be kind, but be clear. You can say, "I appreciate your concern, but I trust my vision." Step 2, filter feedback through logic, not emotion. Before you absorb someone's advice, ask yourself, is this based on data or on their fear? Do they have experience in what I'm pursuing? Are they walking the path or just watching from the sidelines? If the answer is no, thank them for their opinion, then dismiss it quietly, powerfully. Step 3, build your inner wall of conviction. A Stoic doesn't need universal approval to take action. They only need internal alignment. Your values, your purpose, your clarity. When those are rooted deeply, you stop begging for validation and start moving with quiet, grounded certainty. Let's pause and reflect. Who in your life always plays devil's advocate, but never advocates for your potential? Have you delayed a dream not because you doubted it, but because they did? Are you building your life around your values or their fears? Here's the truth. Naysayers don't have to destroy you. They just have to plant enough fear that you destroy yourself. They don't need to be loud. They just need to be consistent. And if you hear their doubts more often than you hear your own inner voice, you'll stop chasing what's possible and start settling for what's safe. But Stoicism offers a different path. It teaches you to command your mind, not conform to someone else's. So the next time someone tells you your dream is too ambitious, don't argue. Don't explain. Just ask yourself, do they still dream at all? Then smile politely and keep going. Because a Stoic doesn't shrink to avoid judgment. A Stoic stands tall-rooted in purpose, aligned with truth, and unshaken by the noise. You've heard it before. Just stay positive. Look on the bright side. Good vibes only. Sounds harmless, right? But what if I told you that behind those cheerful words is something quietly dangerous? Let's talk about the toxic positivist. This isn't the friend who encourages you when you're down. This is the person who denies your pain and calls it wisdom. You say, I'm exhausted. They say, you should be grateful. You say, I'm grieving. They say, everything happens for a reason. You try to share something real, something Rowan. They respond with a smile that says, don't ruin the mood. And over time, their relentless optimism starts to feel like emotional gaslighting. Because pain doesn't go away when ignored. It grows in silence. And when someone tells you over and over that you're too negative for simply feeling human, you stop expressing. You stop processing. You start pretending. Stoicism doesn't teach us to ignore suffering. It teaches us to confront it with clarity and courage. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But the toxic positivist flips that truth on its head. They use mindset as a weapon, not to empower, but to invalidate. So how do we deal with toxic positivity the Stoic way? Step 1. Replace forced optimism with rational preparation. There's a huge difference between hope and denial. A Stoic doesn't say, everything will be fine. A Stoic says, let me prepare for what may come and stay grounded no matter what happens. So when someone tells you, just think happy thoughts, ask, am I building emotional strength or avoiding emotional truth? Step 2. Create space for emotional honesty. Feelings are not the enemy. They are feedback. Signals from the soul that something needs attention, not suppression. It's okay to feel broken sometimes. It's okay to grieve, to doubt, to be angry. Stoicism doesn't erase these things. It teaches us not to be ruled by them, but not to run from them either. Step 3. Stop confusing denial with wisdom. Not every positive person is wise, and not every person who sees the cracks is broken. Sometimes, the most mentally strong people are the ones willing to say, I'm struggling right now. This hurts. I don't have it all figured out. Real growth starts where false positivity ends. Here's what to ask yourself. Are there people in your life who shame you for being honest about pain? Do you ever feel guilty for feeling anything less than happy around certain people? Have you silenced your truth just to make others more comfortable? Here's the truth. Not every moment can be bright. Not every day is a lesson. Not every hardship needs a silver lining. Sometimes life just hurts. And pretending it doesn't only deepens the wound. Toxic positivists mean well, but their insistence on good vibes only turns emotional intelligence into a performance. And when you're forced to smile through pain, you lose the most powerful thing you have, authenticity. But Stoicism says otherwise. It says, let the world be what it is. Your power lies in how you respond. So the next time someone tries to drown your reality in glittery phrases, remember, you are not negative for being real. You are not weak for feeling deeply. You are not broken for having bad days. You are human. And the Stoic path? It's not paved with fake smiles. It's paved with grounded strength, radical self-honesty, and emotional maturity. There's a certain type of person who carries pain like a trophy. Who wears their wounds like a name tag? Who builds their entire identity not on who they are, but on what happened to them? This is the perpetual victim. Now, don't get me wrong. Life hurts. We all carry scars. But the difference is this. Most people want healing. The victim, they want attention. They use suffering as a tool to manipulate guilt, to avoid responsibility, to make sure that no matter what's happening, the spotlight always swings back to them. You share a small win, they'll remind you how hard their life is. You express hope or ambition, they'll make you feel selfish for wanting more. You try to move forward, they anchor you back with stories of how they can't. Over time, being around them becomes emotionally exhausting, because no matter how much you support them, no matter how much space you hold, it's never enough. And slowly, you start to dim your light just to make them feel better in the dark. But here's the Stoic truth. No man is free who is not master of himself. Epictetus. Pain is real, but if someone refuses to take responsibility for their healing, that's not your burden to carry. You are not cold for protecting your peace. You are not heartless for refusing to be their emotional crutch. You are wise for choosing boundaries over burnout. So how do we handle the victim the Stoic way? Step 1. Offer empathy, not enablement. You can care about someone's pain without participating in their self-pity. Support doesn't mean surrendering your own energy. It means saying, I see your hurt. I respect your journey. But I also believe in your power to rise. Because real compassion isn't about soothing someone's story. It's about challenging them to write a better one. Step 2. Separate emotion from identity. Pain is a feeling, it is not a personality. Don't let someone use their suffering as a permanent excuse to avoid growth. Encourage language that empowers, not imprisons. Instead of, this always happens to me, shift the frame to, this happened, but I get to choose what's next. Stoicism teaches us that while we may not control what happens, we absolutely control how we respond. The victim refuses that responsibility. You don't have to join them. Step 3. Redirect toward personal agency. If someone constantly blames others, the past, or the world, pause and ask, what would taking one small step forward look like for you? Most victims aren't looking for solutions. They're looking for sympathy loops. Break the loop not by being cruel, but by calling them to courage. Let's reflect. Do you ever shrink your success because someone in your life can't celebrate with you? Are you constantly walking on eggshells afraid your happiness will offend someone's sadness? Have you been made to feel guilty for growing? Here's the thing. Victimhood is seductive because it requires nothing. No risk, no action, no accountability, but it also offers nothing. No healing, no peace, no freedom. And while you can hold space for someone's struggle, you don't have to let them hold you hostage in it. Stoicism calls us not to be hard, but to be honest. It says, you are not your pain, you are your response to pain. And the moment someone refuses that truth, you must protect your energy with clarity, not guilt. Because the longer you stay entangled in their story, the harder it becomes to write your own. Not all battles are loud. Some of the most dangerous attacks happen quietly in the space between your thoughts. Not with fists, not with yelling, but with suggestion, silence, and subtle control. Let's talk about the manipulator. This person doesn't come at you directly. They don't scream, do what I say. They whisper things like, I just want what's best for you. Are you sure you're thinking clearly? You're being too sensitive. They don't break your walls, they erode them. Slowly, gently, until one day, you're second-guessing yourself in situations you used to handle confidently. That's the true power of manipulation. It doesn't just influence your behavior, it reshapes your identity. You stop trusting your instincts. You start looking outward for permission. And without even realizing it, You hand over the keys to your own mind. But Marcus Aurelius warned us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And if someone else controls your thoughts, they control your life. So how do we deal with manipulators the Stoic way? Step 1. Reclaim your inner authority. A Stoic doesn't outsource their judgment. They don't need every decision to be explained, approved, or applauded. Your boundaries don't require a PowerPoint. Your truth doesn't need to be negotiated. If something feels off, trust that signal. Manipulators thrive on your confusion. So clarity becomes your shield. Step 2. Watch behavior, not just words. Manipulators say whatever needs to be said. They're masters of apologies without change, of compliments with conditions, of promises made in perfect tone but never followed through. So don't get hypnotized by what they say. Watch what they do. Are they consistent? Are they accountable? Or do they rewrite reality every time it serves their ego? A Stoic sees clearly without distortion or denial. Step 3. Set firm emotional boundaries. Don't leak your energy trying to explain your worth. Don't hand over your peace trying to prove your intentions. Your job is not to convince someone of your dignity. Your job is to protect it. And here's the secret. Manipulators hate clarity. They need you unsure, reactive, and emotionally tangled. But when you respond with calm, grounded silence, when you say no without explanation, when you walk away without slamming the door, you break their script. And suddenly, they lose control because their power was never real. It was borrowed from you. Let's ask the real questions. Who in your life makes you feel like you're too much for having needs? Have you ever left a conversation feeling wrong even though you were right? Do you find yourself explaining basic boundaries to someone over and over again? Here's the truth. You're not too sensitive. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. You're waking up. You're realizing that your thoughts, your values, and your inner compass are not up for negotiation. A manipulator doesn't need to shout to control you. They just need you to doubt yourself. But the Stoic path teaches something radically different. It says, stand guard at the door of your mind. Let no one in who doesn't honor your peace. So the next time someone tries to bend your truth, don't argue. Don't over-explain. Just remember, you are not a puppet. You are not an emotional punching bag. You are not a mirror for someone else's insecurity. You are a fortress of calm. And that fortress becomes unshakable. The moment you stop giving away the keys, you deserve it. Treat yourself. Why be so hard on yourself? Just enjoy life. Sounds comforting, doesn't it? But when that message becomes a lifestyle, when indulgence becomes the default, not the exception, something subtle and dangerous happens. Discipline dies, purpose dulls, and comfort starts to rot into complacency. Let's talk about the overindulgent, the people who preach freedom but live in quiet chains. They'll cheer you on when you skip the workout. They'll mock your early mornings, your structure, your drive. They'll say things like, relax, don't take life so seriously. Why work so hard? That's not living. But here's the twist. They're not trying to set you free. They're trying to pull you back down. Because your self-discipline reminds them of their excuses. Your consistency exposes their chaos. And your inner fire burns through their fog of numb pleasure. The truth? They're not celebrating joy. They're avoiding growth. Epictetus said it best. No man is free who is a slave to his passions. That's not a quote about morality. It's a warning about power. When you hand your choices over to impulse, distraction, and indulgence, you may feel free in the moment, but in the long run, you become a prisoner of the very things you think are giving you relief. So how do we deal with the overindulgent the Stoic way? Step 1, don't argue, demonstrate. You don't need to debate the value of discipline. You just need to live it. Let your habits speak. Let your consistency be the quiet protest. They may mock your structure, but deep down, they feel the difference. Not because you say you're free, but because you are. Step 2. Redefine discipline as freedom. The world has sold you a lie, that discipline is punishment and indulgence is liberation. But Stoicism flips that script. Discipline isn't deprivation, it's design. It's the ability to choose long-term purpose over short-term pleasure. And there is nothing more liberating than that. Because when you master your desires, your time, and your energy, you no longer react to life. You lead it. Step 3. Protect your inner environment. Be mindful of who you let into your mental space. Some people will always scoff at effort. They'll label your structure as boring, your standards as too much, and your focus as obsession. But ask yourself, do I want their life? Do I want their results? Do I want their mind? If the answer is nothing, stop borrowing their advice. Their version of freedom is just a more comfortable cage. Here's something to reflect on. Who in your life makes you feel guilty for trying to grow? Who subtly encourages you to drift instead of build? Are you surrounding yourself with people who inspire, strengthen, sedate it? Here's the real deal. Enjoyment is not the enemy. Pleasure isn't evil. But when comfort becomes the compass, you lose your edge. And in today's world where everything is designed to distract, to soften, to pull you away from your highest self-discipline is no longer just a virtue. It's a rebellion. The overindulgent will try to talk you out of that rebellion. Not because you're wrong, but because you're proof that something more is possible. But you don't have to convince them. Just keep walking your path. Because every time you choose structure over chaos, purpose over pleasure, intention over impulse, you don't just get stronger, you get free. A silent manipulator who avoids accountability by staying neutral while quietly steering your decisions. Sometimes, the most controlling person in the room doesn't raise their voice. They don't criticize you outright. They just sit quietly, withholding approval until you second-guess yourself. This is the passive controller. They never directly say, "Don't do that." But their silence speaks volumes. Their hesitations make you pause. Their vague disapproval forces you to shrink, stall, or seek their validation even when you don't need it. What makes them dangerous is that they hide control under the guise of calm. They don't shout. They withdraw. They don't demand. They suggest passive-aggressively. And over time, you start relying on their approval to make basic decisions. You question your own instincts. You ask permission for your passions. You let someone else's subtle tension override your own clarity. But Stoicism teaches us, if you want to be free, learn to live without needing the approval of others. Epictetus, how to handle passive controllers the Stoic way. Recognize withdrawal as influence. Their silence isn't neutrality, it's manipulation through ambiguity. Don't confuse discomfort with wisdom. Reclaim your autonomy. If someone's hesitation constantly shifts your direction, ask, is this based on their fear or my truth? Move forward without applause. You don't need a green light from someone who fears your momentum. Some people delay you not because they don't believe in your dream, but because they've abandoned theirs. If your clarity depends on someone else's comfort, you're not free, you're managed. So the next time someone's quiet control makes you doubt your vision, remember, you are allowed to choose yourself even when they won't. The person who changes depending on who they're with leaving you, unsure of who they really are, and draining your trust in the process. This one is subtle, but deeply corrosive. The energy chameleon. One day they're your biggest supporter. The next, they're echoing the opinions of people who mock you. In one group, they're confident and kind. In another, they become passive, sarcastic, or even cold. You never know which version of them you're getting. And slowly, that uncertainty chips away at your sense of safety. Because how can you trust someone who reinvents themselves depending on the room they're in? Stoicism values integrity alignment between your values, your actions, and your presence. But the chameleon abandons that in favor of approval. They don't serve truth. They serve attention. And if you stay too close to them, you'll start to question your own values because theirs keep shifting. How to handle the energy chameleon the Stoic way. Watch patterns, not performance. Don't be impressed by how they treat you when it's easy. Watch who they become when truth gets uncomfortable. Be the mirror of consistency. Let your presence be steady, principled, and clear. Show them what grounded energy looks like without needing theirs to match. Limit emotional investment. If someone constantly shapeshifts to survive different environments, they're not trustworthy enough to help shape yours. Because the Stoic doesn't just ask, "Who am I?" They also ask, "Who do I become when others are watching?" And if someone in your life keeps leaving you with emotional whiplash, it may be time to protect your stability by reducing your exposure. Consistency isn't boring, it's strength. And in a world full of shapeshifters, clarity is rebellion. Now you have the full picture. 13 silent destroyers of your peace. From the chronic complainer to the manipulative chameleon, each one drains something vital from your inner world. But here's the good news. Once you can name them, you can reclaim your power from them. If you'd like, I can now help you. Sometimes, the people who damage your peace the most don't raise their voice. They don't break things. They don't even look like enemies. They smile. They call themselves just concerned. They say things like, "I just want what's best for you. You've changed. Don't overthink it." But let's be honest, some of the most dangerous threats to your inner world don't come from obvious attackers. They arrive dressed as friends. They speak the language of care, but move with the agenda of control. They wrap manipulation in politeness and sabotage in support. And the scariest part? They make you question you. That's why emotional clarity isn't optional. It's survival. You don't need to argue. You don't need to over-explain. You need to see clearly, then act with quiet certainty. Because the Stoic doesn't waste time fighting chaos. They exit it, silently, strategically, without apology. You see, people ask, "But isn't that cold? Isn't that harsh?" No, it's wise. You don't owe anyone access to your nervous system. You don't owe anyone a front row seat to your growth. And just because someone's familiar doesn't mean they're safe. Your peace is not public property. So what happens when you walk away? At first it feels lonely. It feels strange. You might even feel guilty, like you're the one who's broken something. But give it time, because the moment you step outside the noise, you start to hear something again. Your own voice. Not the critic, not the doubter, not the manipulator's echo, but the still, steady voice of your inner self, the one you were born with, the one that always knew the way if only you'd let it speak. That's where emotional intelligence begins. That's where self-discipline returns. That's where the real healing happens, not in chaos, but in calm. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "Seek approval." He said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Epictetus didn't tell us to chase acceptance. He told us to master our thoughts, because that's where true freedom lives. And today, maybe this is your moment to choose that path. So here's the final truth I want to leave with you. You don't need to be accepted to rise. You just need to become unshakable. Let that sink in. You don't need to explain your boundaries to people who benefit from you not having any. You don't need to defend your silence to those who only hear noise. You don't need to justify your transformation to those committed to staying the same. Stand in your truth no matter how quiet it is. Walk in your value 7 when the road gets lonely. And rise, like no one saw it coming. Because they don't have to see it. They don't have to get it. It's not their life to live. If today's message struck something within you, don't let it fade. Reflect, reclaim, and remember, the most powerful thing you can do is protect your peace so fiercely that nothing weak can survive in its presence. You're not being dramatic. You're not being cold. You're just finally done negotiating with the noise. And in that decision, you become untouchable. If this resonated with you, here's your next step. Like, share, subscribe. Not because this is just another video, but because this is a movement of clarity, of courage, of unshakable inner strength. Drop your thoughts or questions in the comments below, and let's keep this conversation alive. Until next time, stand tall, walk calm, and never forget, your energy is sacred. Protect it like it's all you have, because it is.